Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl I Love, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the FemiNinja Project, and thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I have the most amazing and highly entertaining guest with me today. His name is Herb Kieklak. He's also known as Coach K. He is an exercise specialist, physical performance coach, certified mindset coach. He is a Tai Chi instructor. He is the author of two books. One is Run Better, Run Faster, Using a Biomechanical Approach, and Stop Running, Start Gliding. Herb, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Why, thank you, Cheryl. It's wonderful to be here. Yeah.
And I just found out that you learned recently that how to say your last name correctly, right?
Correct. Yes. How to say it from the true Eastern European style.
So I just want to catch the audience up. You and I met a few months ago when we were co-guests on somebody else's podcast, and we found out that we had a lot in common. We're both from Pennsylvania. You're from Erie.
Okay.
I'm from outside of Pittsburgh.
Right.
We both have an Eastern European background. There were a couple of, we both have written books.
Right. We're both martial artists.
Yes, both, really into fitness and exercise.
Right.
But did you start out?
Except you have a better hairdo than I do.
Oh, why, thank you. But yours looks like it's easier to manage.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, mine takes a lot of work. But so thank you so much for that. So anyhow, what I really want to know is what your story is. I, of course, know it, but I want you to share it with the audience because you do have a fascinating story of how you got to where you are at this point in your life. So take it away, Herb.
Okie dokie. All right. So there's probably multiple little stories in there, but I think the biggest point was that we talked about on the other podcast was that the defining moment of changing my life from when we say last call, running for last call, right? There was a point in my life when I was probably like every other red-blooded American male, watching football on the weekend, drinking lots of beer, and going to work, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Somewhere in there, things started shifting. I don't know what it was, but I decided one of those days to do a triathlon.
Right? Out of the blue, just
out of the blue. Well, I had switched. At that point I was working construction. So I was, as every construction worker would say, I was in shape. I carried heavy objects, but I was pretty strong. But running was limited to last call. And then I started, doing some cycling and running and, I know what it was. I was out cycling one weekend and some guy came up cycling next to me on a really nice bike. And I'm waiting for him to pass, right? Because I'm kind of going on, and waiting, like, go ahead, pass me, buddy, just go ahead. And he started talking, and I'm thinking like, oh, damn, So, and because I'm such a nice guy, he started telling me about all these things, these triathlons, these century rides and marathons and stuff. And I'm thinking, really? Why would somebody want to run a marathon? It just ruin your whole day. Yeah. Right? Why? Why do you want to do something like that? And the more he talked, the more I thought, like, oh, maybe I could try one of those things, see what it's like. And then I slowly did combinations, did a triathlon, marathons and all that stuff. And then I slowly went from, being a beer drinker, TV watcher to endurance athlete. Quit watching TV, quit drinking beer. I got to the point where I remember one time on a weekend going to run a marathon and then going to work with some friends on their house.
Oh, geez.
And
So,
it was
okay.
like, yeah, just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go run a couple miles. I'll be over at 9. Don't worry. Yeah,
And it was a marathon.
it was a marathon. Yeah.
Okay, now I have to ask about the transition period because I mean, I'm kind of guessing you just didn't put the beer down, turn off the television, go outside and start running and everything was easy and beautiful and sunshine and roses.
Of course, yeah. Of course, yeah. No, but actually part of that is true. And this was actually even way before I started doing my mindset training with the Navy SEALs.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Now that's a whole nother story.
I forgot about that.
You forgot about that, those guys, the SEALs.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the beer drinking, it was funny. I'd already got my coaching thing, my personal training thing, and I'd been to the gym working out, right? Lifting weights, had my protein bar. Now I was home. And I'm having a cold beer, reading my research magazine, right? And as the universe would have it, the article was about beer belly. Yeah, while I'm sitting there drinking a beer, right? And it went on to about what the alcohol does to your system. And I'm thinking, well, wait, I just went and worked out for an hour and a half, spent this much money on protein bar and shakes so I could build muscle. And according to this article, this beer that I'm drinking is just kind of negating all that stuff that I just did. And really, that was it. I put it down. And that 6-pack, the rest of the 6-pack that was in the cupboard just sat there. That was it. It wasn't like, all right, let me just have just one a day or just one a week. It would just stop. And I didn't really realize it at the time. And then as I started to study all this stuff more, what had happened is I had changed my, as we would say, your identity to now I'm an athlete. And so now this beer was something that was in the way of my becoming an athlete. If that makes sense.
Yes. Now, did you say this was before your mindset training?
This was way before I had any formal mindset training.
So it was something that you just came to realize on your own.
Correct.
That this was an obstacle getting in your way that you could.
This was in my way, right? And it didn't fit. It was like my rational brain took over. Said, all right, if I'm training this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and how am I going to fit this beer in there? And it didn't fit. So I said, okay, it's out.
So now let me ask you this. How did that impact your training once you said, okay, no beer? And I do want to interject just briefly because the part of the country that you're from and I'm from, beer drinking is actually an art form.
Correct. Well, yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of an art form, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's part of the whole growing up syndrome, everything else, yeah.
Yeah,
that's what factory workers do on the weekend. You drink beer a lot. Yeah.
Well, and of course, I don't know about you, but being Eastern European, I mean, beer was a big deal, in our culture.
Yeah. And actually what I found out, my grandpa, there's old black and white photos had, and up in Pennsylvania, it was called a beer hall.
Oh, yeah.
Back then they weren't called pubs or whatever. It was a beer hall. I guess that's where you went to hang out after work and drink beer. And like when I was working in Australia, all the local farm guys would go down to the local pub, and that's where you kind of would hang out, have dinner, have a beer. It was like their little community center as well.
Yeah, we called them beer gardens as well.
Yeah, beer gardens. Yeah. I don't know where the garden part comes from, but
I don't either.
I mean gardening, but it was the beer garden. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it was definitely in my genetic makeup there. So but it just stopped. It was amazing. As I look back on it now, it just stopped. Boom. Cold turkey, done.
So then how did that impact your training?
That did, how is it, I'm not going to be able to say like there was like all of a sudden a night and day difference of like all of a sudden I was running 12 minutes faster, sleeping better. If I had to be scientific, I don't know if it made that much difference to my training, but it definitely took away something that you would consider in the training world kind of a negative. and in the world of training, there's enough stress on your body from training that you don't need any more of those little negatives.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was amazing how it quit. But I have stories when I used to teach classes at the jail for the drug addicts.
Oh my God.
I know that's another story. But I tell those guys, once you wrap your brain around this, I tell them my beer drinking story. I've told them people like this other guy I knew who was, old when I met him, in his 60s.
Oh.
But I met him in my 20s. So I thought, when you're 20 and meet somebody who's 60, you think like, oh my God, this guy's so old. Right?
It's almost like, how could he still be alive?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But one time I went over to his house and the guy wasn't smoking anymore. And here's a guy who had been smoking in the Navy all his life. And I was like, wow, what's up? And what happened, his daughter had gone back to work and said, hey, you need to watch the baby.
Oh.
But you can't smoke. And he quit.
That is so amazing. Once you have the right motivation or the right catalyst or something, it's amazing what you can do. I always tell my clients, one of the things you have to do every day, get down on the floor and back up. So it's just one of the things that helps keep you balanced, flexible, blah, 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 blah. It's very important. And she just fought me on it. And I can't do it. I says, well, then fine, don't do it. It's all right. Well, after we had that conversation, probably about 2 or 3 months later, she came back for her session and said, oh, by the way, and she was very casual about it. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I've been getting down on the floor, not once a day, but twice. Mm-hmm. And I mean, my jaw dropped and I said, you're kidding me. Mm-hmm. And she said, no. And she says, I did what you said. I found a way. It took a while. But what was motivating her was her daughter was pregnant. Yeah. So her first grandbaby was going to be coming soon. And she wanted to be able to get down on the floor, play with the baby, carry the baby up the stairs. So it is amazing when you find that motivation, you find your why, your reason to do it. That's it. Find your why. And for my clients, whether it's in the drug addiction classes, whether it's in running your first marathon, whether it's, I don't care what it is, it's your why. If you have a strong enough why, you'll quit smoking, you'll quit drinking, you'll lose weight. Up until that point, I don't care. Yeah. I can give you science. I can say, oh, your doctor said you better do this. Yeah. Or your husband says he's going to leave you if you don't do this. Or your wife says that's the last time you're drinking and coming home. That's going to go nowhere. But if you can come up with a strong enough why, like that. You obviously then work with a variety of different clientele. I mean, you don't have just like one stream of, oh, I'm working with athletes. You work with a wide variety of different people. Mm-hmm. Right. And, I'll tell people, it's kind of it's a two-pronged approach. And I look at it now as, and this is one of the lessons I learned from hanging out with, going to the Navy SEAL program. Mm-hmm. Okay. About changing mindset. Wow. Right? Now think about this. In order to do their Navy SEAL program, I had to get up and start training at 4:30 in the morning so I could squeeze it in. My son at that time was just a little baby. So I had to do it before they woke up and, then I'd go to my gym and train people, come home, have family dinner, all that stuff. But up until that point, if you just said get up at 4:30 and go work out outside in the dark, I would have given you one finger. Right? I know which one. You know which finger it is. Right. Okay. But my why switched. Now I have what? I had a reason to get up at 4:30 because I wanted to do this event and I didn't want to interrupt my time with my son or family. That made me get up early and start doing all this stuff. So it's amazing once you wrap your head around a certain reason why, it's all possible. Like you going to LA to train with your one instructor. Yeah, that was. If I would have told you 3 months before that, Cheryl, you're going to fly out to LA and spend this many days training with this guy you've never freaking met before, right? You would have said, you would have given me the one finger. Well, I have to say, I did meet him before, and I had trained with him before.
Okay.
And knowing him probably made it even scarier because I did
Right.
know him and I knew what he
Right.
was like and stuff, and I knew what he was capable of. So, but yeah, I mean, but there was a reason why I wanted to do that.
Right. Right. And it didn't have to be rational, but it had to have a why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that brings me back, circling around. Why did you want to train with the SEALs? I mean, I think that's amazing, but
Huh?
what possessed you to, I mean, again, did you wake up one morning and say, I think I want to train with the SEALs?
Yeah, no, I would like to say yeah. But no, actually it was one of those quirky out of the blue things where I had met this other trainer and runner in town. And we started talking and I said, hey, you read any good books? He said, oh, I read this book. And it's this book called The Way of the SEAL, written by this retired Navy SEAL. And I read it. And at first, when he gave it to me, I was like, oh, no, not another Navy SEAL book, right? Hoo-yah, hoo-yah, hoo-yah. That's all I could think, grunt, grunt, groan, groan, grunt, grunt, But I read it and I liked it. The guy had before he went into the military, had a martial art background, which you and I can appreciate.
Uh-huh.
That was a good positive. And then I read his stuff. It was kind of like I would call it Rambo meets Wayne Dyer.
Oh, wow. Right.
Isn't that kind of weird? Right?
Well, it is and it's not. I get the dichotomy.
It is, but it's not that often. Even in the martial art world, I hung out with hardcore, badass martial artists. And then you hang out with, in America, you have what I call the Tai Chi yoga people who are like peace and love. We really don't want to get into a fight. Let's get our chakras going. Let's meditate for a while. We really don't want to punch them, right?
Yeah. They don't know what they're missing.
They don't know what they're missing. I know. So this guy was the first person I met to blend all this stuff together. And so I was kind of, oh, this is really cool. I want to go do this. Unfortunately, when I got to the camp, it was run by traditional Navy SEALs. Hoo-yah, hoo-yah, grunt, grunt, grunt. None of this, let's go, meditate for a little bit. So it was a freaking tough ass time for sure. And then eventually I went back and got my coaching degree with them, coaching certification. Wow. And it was a lot of that, that mental stuff. It's all mental. Mm-hmm. Like that. I think I posted in one of my things on LinkedIn about the 100 pull-ups. And I'm a runner, or at least I was a runner at that point. And they said, in order to come to this camp, you got to do the MRF, which is 100 pull-ups and all this and this other stuff in less than an hour.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, what? I can do 5, maybe. And then my arm's going to fall off and it's going to take me till tomorrow to do another 5. Then I'll do another 5. And you want me to do 100? And I was having a hard time getting around it. And then somebody else showed me this little trick. And we did like so many and a half hours. I said, oh. And my brain said, oh, I guess that's possible. And the very next week, I did my 100.
Wow.
And did my arms get stronger? No. Did I take a bunch of steroids? No. But I wrapped my brain around the fact that I could do this. Mm-hmm. And that made all the difference in the world.
That was my experience in getting my, I don't know, first degree, second degree, whatever. It was like, the black belt. I actually had done the introductory black belt level, which was a 3.5 hour long test, and which was a nightmare. I made it. You
have all your teeth?
Yes, I have all my teeth, but my partner broke, there's a broken foot involved and it wasn't mine. But anyhow, so the next level was a randori test. So it was all just random attacks. And, you're getting attacked by one person, weapons, you don't know what's coming at you. And then 2 people would attack you at the same time. And then 3 people would attack you at the same time. And you had no idea what was coming. And I just could not wrap my head around that. I could not. And after months and months and months, at that point, I really wanted that belt. Yeah. And I finally got the light bulb went off in my head and it's like, stop training your body and start training your brain instead. So I started doing the visualization, walking through the least scary attacks and, having the appropriate response, maintaining my composure, taking down the attacker. And it took about 6 weeks, and then boom, I rocked the test, and I have the video to prove it.
Yeah, right. Because
mindset.
One of my favorite old teachers, Master Joe, who unfortunately is dead now, because of a car accident. Otherwise, I bet you he'd be right now, he'd probably be 90 something and still kicking.
Oh, sure.
I remember training with him in his early 80s, and he would, work everybody to the table.
Yeah.
And he used to talk about it in that broken little Chinese accent. I just go dream at night. I just dream about this. And we're thinking like, what's he talking about?
Yeah.
And then one of his other instructors, he said, oh, he's visualizing. He visualizes the attack coming. Right hand, right foot, left foot. And he plays it all out in his, what he would call dreams. And then the next day when he's actually sparring with somebody, it's like, oh yeah, I've done this before. A bunch of times. Yeah. So that mental stuff is there. So whether it's doing our martial art training, whether it's giving a speech at your big conference, right, or any type of endeavor, if you play it out up in your brain, you have a pretty high success rate of your body's going to carry it out later. So, and that's part of, I think that's part of more of the mindset training. And I've done this after the SEAL stuff. Like, say you've got that, that super duper conversation you got to have with somebody at work or home or something. I would spend a week or two visualizing it ahead of time, having that conversation, pay attention to your breathing, pretend what the outcome is going to be when you have that conversation or whatever. And then when I finally have it, your body's so calm. And you know this as a martial artist, that other people pick up on your bubble. Whether they realize it or subconsciously, people know when you're nervous, when you're scared, when you're calm, they pick it up. And if I can walk into an event and have a calm bubble with me, other people are going to react what? More calm.
Neural pathways are changing, and it's really funny because there's something called mirror neurons. You must have heard of that. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. If you walked in there all nervous and upset and sweating, that's exactly what's going to happen to the audience as well.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And they pick it up. They might not realize they're picking it up, but they are picking it up.
Yeah.
And so that little tiny trick of, like you say, the mirror imaging, your people picking up your neurology, all that kind of stuff, it's there. And that would be one of the benefits of mindset training. And when I tell people they had Navy SEAL stuff, and what, 99% of us are not going to be in life or death situations that we need to be calm in a burning building or, gunfire. But applying those little things like we just talked about in your daily life are huge.
I want to go back to talk about the longevity when you were talking about your teacher, the one who unfortunately died in that car accident. And you were saying, he would still be kicking today.
Oh, yeah.
There's a certain amount of longevity that martial artists have. Have you noticed that?
As you were saying that, my brain started to say maybe.
Okay.
All right. My brain would say certain martial artists.
Got it. You're absolutely right. I was thinking about a little bit more certain styles. Right. Okay.
Certain styles. Because here's the difference. My original martial arts was what's called Shotokan, which is a very original, basic, old school Japanese style.
Yeah.
Right?
It's similar to what I do. I do Nimpo Taijutsu. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
What I noticed, though, is when I was in it in my 20s, that the back then, black belts in their 30s were all hobbling around.
Oh.
Because what? they had been playing human, I call it human bumper cars for
Right.
so long that they were broken
Right.
up, just like old football players.
Right.
And then I met a lot of these, Chinese style guys, Tai Chi guys who blended different styles. And they were like not hobbling around. They were in their 60s and 70s and still doing amazing things. So I said, these guys are all broken. These guys over here are not broken. What do I want to do for long term? I'm going to go hang out with those guys because they're not broken.
So in my training, we really focus on moving from our structure and not muscling, because a lot of us, I mean, you look at me, I can't outpower a cat. And of course, my sensei he's tall and slender, but he doesn't look like he's this really big, strong guy. I mean, so the way we train is very specific, which is going to bring me into a nice little segue here for you. So, here I'm 65 and sensei is 71, and his sensei that I went to LA to train with is 78, and they're still moving beautifully because we are moving from our structure and not pushing with our muscles. So I would really want you to talk about the books and your techniques and your style, because the one book is Run Better, Run Faster, using a biomechanical approach. So you do integrate the biomechanical skills that your clients have and integrate that with the mindset as well. So start with the biomechanical part of it.
Okay. So yeah, biomechanics. And this is where a lot of high level martial arts, and this is where I think a lot of when Americans and Europeans went over to China and they saw these guys, like this little guy, 5 foot tall, throwing somebody, 300 pounds. They're like, oh my God, it's so magical. Right? And you've been around enough, and I have a good friend in England who spent 15 years at a Shaolin temple, immersed in this, telling about his teacher who would just like strike this huge, heavy bag with his elbow. Yeah. And the thing would just, and other people come up, punch it, and it wouldn't move. And they're like, wow, how come this skinny old guy can, paddle this back? But it's like you say, structure. You get the pieces all lined up together. It's amazing what works. And then you add a little muscle to it. It's amazing. I mean, think about it. To me, it's like the best example is like a little tiny bullet versus a sledgehammer. A sledgehammer is still going to be bad. Yes. Right? I wouldn't want to get hit with one of those. But if I had my choice between that sledgehammer and that bullet, I'm taking the sledgehammer. Right? So the idea there's even a small little bullet with the right amount of like biomechanics behind it. So running with biomechanics and the other one gliding. Yeah. The idea what I found with my clients is the very old school technique, which is what I was kind of raised with, and I don't know about you. Well, you're just going to work harder. Right. And when I first started teaching people, we're going to go run so many miles for the next 20 months, do a lot of weightlifting, do this, go up and down the stadium, and then you'll get faster. Right? Because you paid your dues, you put your muscle in there. No pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. Suck it up, buttercup. Right? Yep. Right? All that shit. Gotta bleed. You're not sweating blood. Come on. Right? And then I went and got my fellowship in biomechanics, which goes along perfectly with the world of Chinese martial arts. Except those guys didn't know anything about biomechanics because they were pretty illiterate. They didn't know anything about it, but they understood it. They knew about it, but they couldn't explain it intuitively. Yeah, they knew it by just trial and error. So what the idea was, what I found with my clients is that now, instead of taking months of training somebody to get faster by the old-fashioned way, I could really take one session and I could take a beginning runner, come in and have them faster than when they walked in the door, and feeling like, oh, this is so easy now, because all we did was change the mechanics a little bit. And I used to call it, my job is just to take away the bad stuff that you're doing. I call it take out the parking brake, because every runner out there is what I call running with their parking brake on.
Mm-hmm.
They got bad posture, they're out of rhythm, they're doing something. If I just line up the pieces, they're faster.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when I did that thing with the 100 pull-ups, all that stuff, I changed a couple little variables and bingo. Well, I mean.
Yeah, because it's if something is even a little bit off, you're fighting yourself.
You're fighting yourself. That's what I call running with the parking brake on. Your body is fighting itself. And if I can get rid of that friction, that whatever, tug of war, all of a sudden you unleash all this power and it's just amazing.
Well, not only that, not only do you get faster and better, you also prevent injuries. Correct,
because now, like you were saying before, you're using your structure. You're not using muscle and tendon and putting a lot of stress on all the joints and everything else. So your body is working the most efficiently possible. And that's what I was telling somebody else the other day about running, is that if I take away all that bouncing and bad shit that you're doing, you're not going to have that wear and tear on your knees or your back that everybody complains about. And you can run and run and run and run for a long time. So, yeah.
I almost feel like we need to have some music playing and have you repeat that statement again, because that is so important to keep your body healthy, that you can keep moving.
Right.
Keep moving, but keep moving in a healthy biomechanic way.
And I would say we both agree upon in an intelligent method.
Yeah, we call it I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner. We call it in an organized way.
Correct. Yeah. So I would think Feldenkrais and the martial art guys. Well, Feldenkrais was a martial artist.
Yes, he was. Yeah,
he was, and he had that physics background too.
Yep.
So he's a double whammy.
Yeah.
So I think he would have loved, if he would have gone to my biomechanics school, he would have just sat in the front row and just, oh yeah, this all perfect. Yeah. And put even more equations up on the board. But yeah, it is. Your body, if you look at it, is a machine. Right? Just like a car, a bicycle, everything else. If we use it correctly, you'll get 10,000 miles out of it. If you use it incorrectly, you'll get 1,000 miles and break down. It's pretty darn simple.
Yeah, if you don't put oil in it, the engine's going to explode.
Right. You put as my one instructor said, you put garbage in. It's like you put bad gas in your car, the engine's going to sludge up. I personally would love to be one of those Mercedes. We've seen like Mercedes, how they get those little special tags on their radiator, like 1 million miles, 2 million miles. Yeah, I'd like to be one of those guys, have those little special tags. And, I've met a guy who's got an old Mercedes with one of those tags. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to get my second tag. All he has to do is maintain the car correctly. And it'll keep running and running and running. Yeah.
The key there is to know how to maintain it correctly. And that's where you come in, because a lot of people really don't know how to maintain their body correctly. And, it's, you go to the gym, try to, maybe hire somebody to help you out. I mean, I got a lot of clients that way, that, women in my age group, or a little bit younger even, would want to get into shape, and they would go to the gym and they would hire a trainer, and then 3 weeks later they couldn't walk, or their shoulders were torn up. So there is a way of doing it in a methodical, intelligent way. There's that word again, intelligent.
Intelligent, damn. How's that word keep creeping in there?
I don't know.
But I just had a Zoom yesterday with this woman up in Boston area, who's was an Olympic weightlifter at 60 something years old.
Really?
And she didn't start, I think, I should call her back up. I think she started in her late 50s. She was a swimmer. And then finally she went to one of those CrossFit things, hated it for a while. Those barbells are terrible. And then she went and got to a real Olympic lifting coach who did it correctly. And yeah, she went on to do clean and jerk, snatch, took medals in competitions.
Wow. Yeah. I can't remember the number of the episode, but I interviewed a woman, oh my gosh, it was probably less than a year ago, who at the age of 60 started lifting and does the Olympic, and now she is competing. She's won all kind of medals and stuff, but she just made a decision, I guess at the age of 59, she was overweight, she was sitting on the couch, she was eating junk, and she's like, I have a choice. I either make a change or this is the rest of my life. Again, her daughter was having a baby. So that was her why. And she just went on this incredible journey that is just so amazing.
Yeah, so it is possible. And I think I posted yesterday on LinkedIn this story from a woman in England who's at 60 something. And her daughter was like, Mom, you either got to do something or you're going to be in a nursing home.
Yeah.
And the mom was like, I don't want to be in a nursing home,
No,
and
right.
she started, and she went on to become like a high level weightlifter and at 70, I looked at the photo, it's like, wow, it is doable. If, as you say, if you do it, have a good coach. And I realized the difference when I first started training, I would have been just like, I think a lot of the other trainers that are out there, no pain, no gain, got to push it harder, got to blah, blah, blah. And now that I've known more because I've gone to school so much, it's like, no, you don't have to do that. This is how your body is set up. This is how you train it correctly. All that stuff. You shouldn't have a lot of injuries if you do it correctly.
Right. Yeah, I at the age of 65, I feel better now than I did 30 years ago.
Oh yeah.
I was actually a chronic pain patient. That's what started me on my journey into, looking into alternative health and all of the different modalities that I do. It was just, I was a chronic pain patient for 2.5 years and was told, this is it. This is the rest of your life. You will never have the life you had before or the life that you want.
Right.
And so, every time I think about that, there's that same finger kind of, coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And that's why the medical profession doesn't give you those alternatives. Right. And as you said that, I had a friend out when I lived in Oregon. And we were talking one time about going hiking, and she goes, I got these bad knees. I went to the doctor. He said, I got knees. And he told me just to give up that hiking.
Oh.
And I said, really? Why don't he just tell you, like, well, here's some exercises you can do to make your knees stronger, or try this. He just told you to give up the hiking. Yeah. Right? Oh, okay. Just stay home and watch more TV and, eat more snacks. Right?
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God, that's terrible. Yeah. But that's what people get. And if they don't go out of their way, like obviously you went out of your way to find a solution.
Right.
Because the other half of the population would have listened to their doctor and said, oh yeah, this is all I've got. I'm just going to be miserable and chronic pain the rest of my life. Oy vey, that's me. But you're the percentage that chose to do something a little bit different.
Well, I couldn't imagine having a life like that. And, and I think somewhere deep inside of me, I was just so ticked off that somebody thought they knew me that well, and that she just took away my hope. She shattered my dreams. She destroyed my spirit and said, go home. Don't worry about it, though. We're going to take care of you. And then she told me to start applying for disability because I was going to need it. I was 36 years old.
Right. Can you imagine?
No, that's so, I would just, in all my years of being in the medical profession, I never told somebody that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or give them lots of options. Try this, try this, try that, try that. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I do like to highlight in the show, that there are so many things out there that you can try, and to never give up, because there are so many different kind of healing modalities, movement modalities, so much out there. It's not a one size fits all. One thing doesn't work for everybody. So just go out there and keep looking.
Correct. You're so right. Because for you and myself, certain martial arts worked. Yeah. For the next person, it could be swimming. And I have another guy I know who's a veteran who was on the brink of suicide. Tells a story, and he forget what didn't do it. Why he skipped it the one day? Oh, I think somebody had a commitment, and he went on a bike ride with another friend. That bike ride, he said, kind of perked him up. he started cycling and ended up losing like 50 pounds, got back in shape. And of course, once he lost weight, he got more healthy. All that depression and suicide stuff went away. So for him, cycling was the answer, right? And you've known people who change their diet, all of a sudden they get off of medication.
Yeah, exactly.
I've read a lot of books by what's his name, Joe Dispenza, different meditations, and people clean up from all sorts of diseases. So it's like you say, one size will not fit everybody, right? What works for you might not work for me, but we all, like for me, for a long time, ultra running was my holy grail, right? I've got a problem, I'm gonna go run for 10 miles. I've got this, I'll go run for 10 miles. Whatever, just go run for 10 miles, I'll fix it, you know? And for the next person, it might be going swimming, I don't know.
Or maybe even just a slow walk in the park.
Just slow walk in the park, or go sit and do a meditation or a yoga session. Right, but everybody's got something that will get them, what I say, get you to that next level.
Yeah, exactly.
And getting there is the key. How you get there, I don't really care, as long as you get there.
Okay,
right?
So that brings me to something else that I saw on your website today when I was, checking you out a little bit more. Because obviously, I this is not the first time I met you. You know, we were on the same podcast and had a great conversation there. So I stalked you. I wanted you on the show. So this was on your website, and I just bust out laughing. I wrote it down. Never blame someone else for the road you're on. That's your asphalt.
Oh, yeah, I remember that quote. Yeah. Yeah, I read that. Yeah, I thought was that was a great little quote, right?
Yeah.
Don't blame anybody else. It's your own asphalt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one wasn't quite as funny, but it's very, very poignant and very important. And I just wanted to bring this up. The biggest asset in the world is mindset. And we already covered that a little bit, but if there's anything else, if you want to say anything more about it, go right ahead.
Well, okay. So speaking of where we were at the beginning, have I kind of split? Because in the beginning, I was a hardcore, I would say, physical trainer.
Right.
I didn't care about your mental because I was so old school.
Yeah.
Right. And then definitely after doing the SEAL stuff, and then after I took a lot of counseling classes to work with all the drug addicts, my brain started shifting a little bit. Okay. And I realized part of my lesson coming out of the SEAL camp was we were there one night, and it must have been midnight, 1 a.m. or something, right? You're dark, you're cold, you're muddy. And we're all standing at attention. And one of the instructors said, like, you guys learned anything? Right? And my brain is thinking like, yeah, don't sign up for this shit anymore. Right? That's what I'm thinking. But there was a guy behind me who said, like, yeah, now I realize I'm not going to have to yell at my kids anymore.
Wow.
And I said, ding, that's it. All this other shit that we're doing of crawling and sitting in the ice, it's really to get me more mentally tough so that when my kids do something, I don't really have to lose my rocker about it. And I took that and came home, and I realized, especially with a young child, oh yeah, he spilled something. Okay, we'll clean it up. That thing broke. All right, we got it, no problem. It changed it. And part of me started thinking that if I have a client come in and I have X amount of hours to work with this person, and at the end of those 6 weeks, I made him run faster. He can take first place in that marathon, but he's still a jerk. Right? He's a bad dad. His wife hates him, all that kind of stuff. But he's fast. Or I take that same 6 weeks with that guy, make him into an okay runner, but because we've changed his mindset, he's now a great dad. He's a good husband. He's all that kind of stuff. Where would I rather spend my time? And that was easy. I'd rather spend it on the second choice so that my clients come home. Yeah, they're going to be better physically, but they're also going to learn to be better on that mental edge that, you know, they don't yell at the kid. They're a decent husband. You get out of that, what I call that blaming game. Right? You say people do something. Oh, why'd you drop that? You should have been more careful or something. And I'll say to my son, like, oh yeah, daddy should have been paying more attention. I take some of that blame. You don't want to put blame on people. They get enough of that in real life.
Right.
So all that kind of, to me, I can blend them together and you come out I think my old teacher, Master Joe, would say, you come out, you create a better person. I'm not just creating a better runner,
right,
or better martial artist who can go kick ass. Then you get people like, I hate to use his name, Conor McGregor, good athlete, but it doesn't seem like a very nice guy. So I would rather have that person come out as that complete person versus just a runner, just a martial artist, just a cyclist or something.
As a well-rounded human being.
Yeah. We might as well improve all your aspects. Remember, you're in the martial arts. The story was the old Japanese samurai. Rumor was that not only did they learn how to, kill people efficiently, right? But they also learned flower arrangements, calligraphy, poetry. Like they had whole sides of the whole coin. Why not? It is possible. So that's why now I try to blend both things into my teaching, whereas in the old days it was just all physical training. Now it's both.
Well, and I think we know by now, it's, society is finally figured out that mind-body connection really does go hand in hand. And it's not just your mind and your body. It's not just the physical and the, thinking, it's the emotional, the spiritual, the psychological. I mean, we're just so much more complex than we thought we were. But when we realize that and bring everything together to work for the power of good, life is a whole lot better.
Yeah, it is.
And then maybe we can all get along. And, I really do want world peace. I'm like Miss Congeniality. I really do want world peace.
Right. Or at least to get along.
At least to get along. Yeah, that would be a really good start.
Yeah. So using that mindset training, it all goes together. And I'll tell my other clients, sometimes I can get your mindset training down by doing some physical stuff.
Yeah, a lot of times, that's a really great way to relieve stress that's just been built up, or all of this energy or angst that, just kind of need to let it explode out with physical.
Right. And we were talking yesterday with a 68-year-old weightlifter woman about doing what we call Crucible Camps. We can bring in people, here's the idea, that have like a weekend camp. And you would mix it with a little bit of, I would call physical training, kind of boot camp stuff, and a lot of mental training. So you'd go do the physical stuff first, because it gets your endorphins going and it gets your brain to kind of turn off some of that anxiety and stress. And say you did your first drill outside of whatever it was, and you come back in like you did it. Right? So now your brain's kind of feeling happy. Then we can start teaching you about, how to control your anger, or how to speak correctly. And then we'll go out and do a little more physical stuff. So by the end of the weekend, you start learning all these tools. The physical is just getting your body, your brain ready to be more receptive to learning. So the idea is by the end of the weekend, you would leave having a whole bunch more tools of how to deal with almost any situation. Right? Your plane gets canceled. And what did everybody do? You go to the counter, you bitch out the little lady at the counter who has nothing to do with your plane. And it's not going to make you get there any faster. It's just going to make you have 3 miserable hours sitting there. Or do you learn to say, oh, geez, my plane got canceled. What do I do with this next 4 hours?
I love the way you mentioned the tools, having those tools in your toolbox, your tool chest, and your toolbox can never get too full.
Correct. Right. Or you just replace older tools with newer tools or better tools. Once you learn a better system,
upgrade.
You can upgrade clean up your toolbox. You just keep upgrading your toolbox. Like you went from an old typewriter with a little whiteout thing and an eraser to now you have a laptop with spell check. Okay. So we keep up, or we should, let's put it this way, we should keep upgrading our toolbox. And that's what I really think would be a great long-term thing to have, these camps that people come in, learn new tools, go back home. They are different than when they came in. They're better off physically, mentally, emotionally. And then they kind of spread that throughout the whole, right? Because everybody they come into contact with should get some of that feedback. So that's my plan.
That's your plan and you're sticking to it, right? Or that's your
sticking
story. You're sticking to it. So Herb, how can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
They would call you. You guys would get in a cab and come on over.
That would be a very long cab ride. That'd be one expensive trip. Yeah.
That'd be one heck of an Uber ride, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. But it would be worth it when you got here.
Oh, I'm sure it would. I'm sure it would.
So the idea to get a hold of me would be, that's right, you're doing this audio, would be website, which would be Coach.
I am going to include all the links will be included in the description.
But that
of the
is
show.
the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay.
My psychic skills aren't quite that good yet. Otherwise, I would say just meditate on it for a while and I'll call you. But going to my website, sending me a text message, email. I love email. Send me an email, text me, and I will get back and hold touch with you. Yeah.
So you have a really great website and there is an awful lot of information on it. And you are active on LinkedIn and you do have a lot of really good stuff there too.
I do. Yeah. A lot of LinkedIn stuff is my most favorite platform.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good place. Yeah.
It is. It's more, I would say it's more intelligent.
I think so too. And there's that word again.
Intelligent.
It keeps popping up.
Yeah. Funny about that. Yeah.
So is there any final pearls of wisdom that you would like to drop on our listeners right now before we close?
No, I think we covered a lot of it. I really do believe that mindset thing is huge. Changing it. There was a thing I posted, was it two days ago, about one of the rules from camp about speaking. And it kind of fits in with one of that old book, The Four Agreements. It was like, only speak if it's positive. Only speak if it's true, as you know it. Right? And I think the third one was like, only speak if it's kind. And I remember when I read that, yeah. And I went to my gym one day and I realized half of my little comments I was going to say, I couldn't say them. Because either they're a smart ass little joke or it's like, hey, do you know about Susie? And she went over drinking this weekend. That didn't fit, right? All of a sudden, I was being quiet a lot more.
Was that hard?
Originally it was really hard. And then once I did it, I got to the point where I realized my brain will automatically filter like, oh, that's just gossiping, or that's just small talk. Do I really need to say that? No, I don't. Do I need to make that comment to so-and-so? No, I don't. Is it going to do any good? No. And then you just start becoming a lot more quiet.
More introspective, perhaps?
More in perspective. And then you realize that, and somebody else said that today. John Spence was talking about that. I don't know if you read about John Spence. He's one of those business leaders, a great guy. And he says he tries to, before he speaks up in a conversation, his thing is what I'm about to say going to add any value to this conversation? If it's not, then be quiet.
I want to take that a little farther too, because,
Go ahead.
And I want to apply that to self-talk, because a lot of times we are so mean to ourselves. We are our own worst enemies. And some of the things that we say to ourselves, we would never say to another person.
Yeah.
So guard your own self-talk very carefully.
Right. You would say to your kids or somebody like, yeah, you can do it. Go for it. Yeah. And yourself, you say, I don't know if I can do that. Maybe they can do it. I don't know if I can do that. But yeah, you're right. That self-talk is huge.
Yep. Yeah. And always have to be aware of it.
I'll be aware. And that is probably one of the other big keys that I've learned is that awareness factor, right? If you're aware of it before it comes out of your mouth or before you, whatever, get that whatever out of the refrigerator that you shouldn't be eating or something, then you're less likely to follow through on it. But I would bet, and you might, how many people go through life kind of just on autopilot?
Right.
And they're not really aware of what they're saying. They tell the same stories over and over to so-and-so, and they're talking to their buddies at work about blah, blah, blah. And they just go home, have that beer and watch TV. Are they really thinking about what they're doing or not?
Yeah. It's just autopilot.
Autopilot, yeah. And there's another quote I read from actually one of my clients in Ireland. I'm training, he wants to do this badass run across Ireland. But one of it was in his business posts. And I called him and I said, well, Shay, we should just apply that to real life. And part of the business post was if he's doing something with somebody's business, right? And the thing was, did I add value to their business? And I thought, wow, I should ask myself that question every night before I go to bed, right? In my little journal, did I add value? Did I do anything today that was of value? That makes you start looking at things a little differently, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I thought, I better start manning up.
Well, Herb, this has been so amazing having you on the show and so wonderful to have you all to myself rather than having to compete with, all those other
people. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it's just nice to have you one-on-one and get to know you a little bit better and hear some of your stories. And I know you have a whole lot more of them.
I have lots of stories there, ma'am. Yeah, someday we'll be on that car ride across the country and we can share stories.
It's a good thing. It's a very, very big country and it'll be a long car ride because it
will be a long car ride. That's okay.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Herb. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And everybody, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you tuning in. And remember that our bodies are a lot smarter than we are sometimes. And when you find that biomechanical ability to move well and you combine that with your mindset, magic really happens. Check out Herb's website, give him a call, send him an email, check him out on LinkedIn. He has a really lot of great information to share. And remember that you can do anything that you want to do with the right mindset and the right tools to help you get there. And that is the way of the FemiNinja. And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.